You think Elon Musk is rich? You think Jeff Bezos has money? Let me tell you about a man who makes both of them look poor. He lived over 700 years ago. He was African. And he was so rich that when he went on a simple trip, he destroyed an entire country's economy without even trying. This is the story of Mansa Musa. So who was this man? Mansa Musa was the king of the Mali Empire in West Africa. And when I say empire, I mean a really big one. His kingdom covered what is today Mali, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, Guinea, and more. Millions of people lived under his rule, and his land was sitting on top of something the whole world wanted: gold and salt. So much of it that nobody could even compare. Here is something that will blow your mind. At the time Mansa Musa was king, his empire was producing more than half of all the gold in the entire world. Half of all the gold on the whole planet. Economists today try to put a number on his wealth, and the closest they get is around $400 billion. But most of them just shake their heads and say, honestly, we cannot even calculate it. That is how rich this man was. Now in 1324, Mansa Musa decided to make a religious journey to Mecca. Simple, right? Not quite. When this man travels, he does not travel small. He left his kingdom with over 60,000 people walking beside him. Soldiers, servants, scholars, and 12,000 people, each carrying 4 pounds of gold just as gifts to give away on the road. On top of that, he had 80 camels, each one carrying hundreds of pounds of gold dust. This was not a journey. This was a moving city of gold, crossing the Sahara Desert. When he got to Cairo in Egypt, the whole city just stopped. People had never seen anything like this in their lives. And Mansa Musa, he just started giving. Gold to the poor people on the streets, gold to the scholars, gold to the government officials. Wherever he stopped, he built a mosque. He was just being himself, generous, humble, and kind. To him, this was normal. This was just how you treat people. But here is where things get crazy. When you flood a market with too much gold, the value of gold drops. And that is exactly what happened in Egypt. Mansa Musa gave away so much gold that gold suddenly became common. And when something becomes common, it loses its value. Overnight, merchants who had worked their whole lives lost everything. The Egyptian economy crashed so badly that it took 12 whole years before things went back to normal. One man, one journey, one act of generosity, and an entire country's economy collapsed for over a decade. But here is the part of Mansa Musa's story that most people never talk about. When he came back home, he did not just sit on his gold. He built. He brought architects and scholars back with him and constructed the Jingareba Mosque in Timbuktu, a building that is still standing today more than 700 years later. He turned Timbuktu into one of the greatest universities in the whole world. At its peak, 25,000 students were studying there. People came from Europe, the Middle East, and all across Africa just to learn in this African city. Mansa Musa did not just build wealth, he built knowledge. So what does this story really teach us? Mansa Musa was not rich by luck, he was wise. He invested in education. He built things that lasted long after he was gone. He was generous not because he had to be, but because that was his character. And he proved something to the world that some people are still not ready to accept. Africa has always been great. Before anyone came to take from this continent, before anyone tried to rewrite its history, Africa was already producing the richest kings and the greatest minds the world had ever seen. And if you are a young African watching this right now, I need you to hear this. You did not come from weakness. You did not come from nothing. You come from kings. You come from builders. You come from people who were great when the rest of the world was still figuring things out. Mansa Musa's story is your story. That greatness is already inside you. The question is, what are you going to build with it? If this story made you proud, drop a crown in the comments and share this with someone who needs to know where they really come from. Subscribe to World Wisdom Stories because we are just getting started. There are so many more stories of African greatness and powerful life lessons coming your way. You are not just watching a channel. You are reconnecting with who you truly are.